So the purpose of this video is to learn how to create graphs in Google Spreadsheets so that we can do some analysis based on those graphs. So I'm going to use our Half-Life lab as a model for the data. And skill is going to be what we're going to use frequently going forward for creating the graphs, creating trend lines, getting equations, and further calculations. So the experiment that we did for Half-Life involved taking a bunch of pennies and starting with all of those pennies head up. We had 100 pennies in a box, and they were all heads up to start. And then we took those pennies and you shook the box, and any pennies that were tails, you removed those. And you kept track of how many shakes and the number of pennies that were left with heads up over time. What we want to do now is take that data and graph it in Google Spreadsheets. So if we scroll down to page 5, this is how to graph data in Google Spreadsheets. So first step, open Google Classroom and open the assignment titled Half-Life Data Analysis. Okay, you need to do that on your own. I'm not going to model it. But what you should do is you should get something that looks like this, except there will be no numbers here in these boxes. These will be blank. Your first step, number 2, is to enter the data from the lab into the appropriate column. So your data table up here on page 2, the number of shakes and the number of pennies left, this data we need to enter. So I just have some data that I collected. These numbers are shakes, and here are the number of pennies left, heads up. So you got to enter your data first. Let's see what's next. Now I need to click on the top leftmost data point, then while holding the click down, drag the mouse to the bottom right corner data point. Okay, so I need to click on the top leftmost data point, hold down my mouse, and drag to the bottom right until all of the data is highlighted. Okay, let's move on. Once the data is highlighted, click on Insert, then Chart. Okay, so I have my data highlighted. I'm going to scroll up here where it says Insert. I'm going to scroll down to where it says Chart. Boom, and now this pops up. I have a bunch of options for what I can do. Okay, let's see what's next. Once the chart screen has opened, click on More next to Recommended Charts. See below. Well, there's no picture below. Just follow along in the video. So I need to click on More next to Recommended Charts. So let's find here it says Recommended Charts. Here's the word More. I'm going to click there. I have some more options now, like line, area, column, bar, scatter, pie, lots of different graphs and charts that I can create. What do we want to do in this lab? We want to choose the scatter option and then click on the top option with the red and blue dots, not the gray circles. Okay? So I'm going to click on scatter, and what this is going to do is it's going to take my data and plot it on the graph for me. So no longer do you have to do this by hand, looking at your X and looking at your Y and putting all these little dots. The computer will do it for us. So scatter, the top one with the red and blue dots. I'm going to click insert. Boom, there's my chart. Look at that, it did all of that hard work for me. Now once I've created my graph, I'm going to click on the arrow in the top right corner, then click on Advanced Edit. Well, first let's just move this graph. I can just click and drag it over so I can have a little bit of space. Because our goal now is to try to figure out how can we draw a line of best fit, a best fit curve for this data. Well, I need to click on this little arrow in the top right and then click on Advanced Edit. So now some more options are going to pop up. Okay? Well, we've done step 7. What's step 8? Under the Customize tab, scroll down until you see Trend Line. Click on None and select. So let's do that part first. Under the Customize tab, scroll down until you see Trend Line, click on None. Okay, so I'm on Customize, and you scroll down until I see Trend Line. Oh, it's down here at the bottom. It says None right now. What do I want it to say? I want it to say, for this graph, exponential. Linear would be a line, polynomial would have a variety of functions and curves. For this lab, we want an exponential. And if you're not exactly sure what an exponential curve is, don't worry about it too much. But what we can see is, it made a nice best fit curve for us with our data points. That's pretty cool. We don't have to use a ruler, we don't have to do anything specific. The computer can do it for us accurately. Then on Label, click on Use Equation, then click Update. Okay? Well, where does it say label? I need to scroll down a little bit. Here it says label. I want use equation, and then I'm going to click update. Beautiful. Now we can see that in this legend here, there's an equation that represents this curve. Okay, that's pretty cool, but I can't see the entire equation. So one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that box up to the top right, and the best way to do that is to go back to our advanced edit option, and I'm going to take my label here. Excuse me, what I meant to say was from our curve, we're going to click on this equation, and over here where it says right, that tells us the position where it's located. In order to see the whole equation, I'm going to move this to top, and now I can see the whole equation right here. Y equals 156.28 e to the negative 0.498x minus 1. Okay, great. That's a nice little curve. That's the equation that I'm going to want to write down that we're going to need to use later. The last step here is, at this point, change the labels on your axes and title your graph under the Customize tab as described above. So we'll go back to the Customize tab by clicking on this arrow, Advanced Edit, Customize. Let's change our chart title. This would be Half-Life of Pennies. And on our horizontal axis, that's the one going left to right, we would title this number of shakes. And on my vertical axis, once I find my vertical axis here, I just click here to left vertical. I would title this number of pennies. Boom. So now what we should see is if I hit update, I have these labels on my two graphs, I have my title, and I have my equation. Super cool. If you want to play around with this a little bit more, you can under the advanced edit. There's some different things you can do. You can change the font color if you want to turn it into red or whatever. You can change the font size to make it bigger. You can do the same thing with your legend. You can do the same thing with each of the axes. You can change the font, etc. But for now, the goal is that when you finish this lab, you have a graph with a title, a left axis labeled, vertical, a horizontal axis labeled, your data graphed, and a nice curve. You're then going to want to use this curve to do some analysis, but for now, you should have this generated. If you're not sure, watch part of the video again, check your notes on the document here, or check in with Mr. Shar or a neighbor.